Hello, class. Today we're going to start a new document, and I'm going to take you through the setting up the document process. All right, so pay very close attention to what's going on. And what I'm going to do is show you how to do isometric drafting. Okay, there's two modes of drafting that are very similar, and you need to know the difference between the two. Okay, so write these terms down that I'm fixing to give you. Write them down, put them in your notebook, and remember what they are. Okay, but isometric drafting is a three-dimensional drafting on a two-dimensional surface. So it's not true three-dimensional. And it's dealing with angles of 30 and 120 degrees. But primarily what you want to remember about that is 30 degrees. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get into the drawing. And then the other term is axonometric. Okay, axonometric is very similar to isometric, but it is focused on 45-degree lines. Okay, and I'll show you again what that's going to look like when we get into AutoCAD and get going. Okay, so isometric is 30 degrees, axonometric is 45 degrees. Okay, all right, so let's start a new document. So I'm just going to click on New. First place I'm going to go is right down here. Now, I didn't realize this on the last video, but if you don't have this right here where it says decimal, click on this customization button, and where you find units, click on that to make sure the check mark shows up, and then that will put this unit module right down here. So I need to change that from decimal to architecture, right up there at the top. And I need to change my scale, and this one is also going to be a 1.5 1. 1.5 inches equals 1 foot. So my mode here is set to architectural and my scale is set. Next, I'm going to set up some text sizes that I might be using both in liters, dimensions, and in text in general. Okay, so I always start with text because you get your text for everything else from the primary text tool, which is this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to click on that A. I'm going to click on annotative, okay, and I'm going to start a new one. And what's going to happen is when I click new, it's going to make a copy of the annotative settings. Those are most of the settings that I want. So click on new, and I'm going to call this one 1-8 IN text. Click OK. And then right here where it says paper text height, type in 1/8 inches. Click apply. Okay, now that one's good. It's good to go. Now I'm going to click on 1/8 inch again and click new. And this one is going to be called 3/16 inch. Whoops, I can't write it like that. Remember, we got to put a dash. And click OK. And then click here or highlight right there where it says paper text height and put in 3/16 inch. Apply. Okay. Now I'll just select that one and select new. This one's going to be 1/4. And again, you got to remember 1/4 inch text. Okay, and there's your 1/4 inch text, and we got to come in here and type 1/4 inch and apply. All right, so now I've got 3 text sizes that I'm probably going to use. All right, I can close this box, and now I'm going to go to, I know I'm going to use, I'm not going to use dimensions in this one, okay? So we can skip dimensions for now, but I'm going to go to liter. And of course, they both work very similar as far as the dimension text and the liter text. But let's go to liter. Click on annotative and click new. Okay, and then type in here, however you want to name it. You can just name it 1/8 inch text, or you can put whatever fancy name that you want to put in there. Okay. Oh, and I forgot. 1-8 IN text. Click on continue. And leader format, we're going to match the leader format with the text. So it's going to be 1/8 of an inch. Leader structure, I'm going to leave it just like it is. And then content, I come here to where it says text styles, click on this and set up our 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to leave this one selected and click new again. And this one's going to be 3/16. 3-16 text. Okay, I might want to put the IN right there. Continue. Okay, same thing. Leader format, we're going to go to 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to go to content, change this to 3/16 inch. And I'm good to go there. Now I'm going to create a new one based on that 3/16. This one's going to be 1/4, 1-4 IN text. Continue. Content. Okay, and we're going to select 1/4 inch text. Leader format, we're going to go up to 1/4 of an inch. Okay, okay. All right, so we're good to go. We've got all three of those set. All right, now going to isometric. Okay, remember I said isometric is based on 30 degrees. All right, so I'm going to come down here. This is your little isometric tool for isometric drafting. You have a drop-down arrow right to the right of the icon, and that gives you different ways of looking at your drawing. You have isoplane left. Okay, so I click on that. I'm assuming, okay, there we go. Click on, turn the icon on. You see how it changes appearance. Turn the icon on. So here I'm in isoplane left. All right, if I take isoplane top, it changes the screen to that right there. Isoplane right, it changes it to this right here. Now, thinking you can draw pretty much anything you want to in either plane. Depends on how you would like, how you feel comfortable. Let's go to the isoplane top, which I think is the most easiest to understand. Now, as I clicked through those, I just now thought you might not be able to see the lines on my screen. So click through it just like I did. If you need to rewind and go back and do that, and just kind of follow me and click through it. And you'll see on your screen how the lines readjust and realign. Okay, so now we were talking about isometric being based on 30 degrees. Okay, so if you look at the icon in the center, and I also mentioned one other dimension, which is 120 degrees. So let's look at the icon in the center, and you got a red line and a green line. Okay, the green line to the red line, if you're looking at the very top of the icon, that's a 120 degree difference. But if you look to the left and to the right, where the angle seems to be sharper, that is 30 degrees. Okay, so just about everything we're drawing here is going to be in 30, either in 30 to 120 degrees from one another. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to draft we're going to do a drawing that shows how we want the corners of our walls to be framed. Okay, we're going to show basically a framing style of joining these corners. And we're going to do this for the bottom, and we're going to do it for the top. But we're going to start on the top and do that one first. And just for the meantime, I'm going to pause for just a second. All right, so the first line I'm going to draw, and I'm just going to use the regular line tool. I'm not going to use anything else but that one. Pretty much during this whole video. Okay, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw the seal plate or the sole plate. That's the bottom board of the wall. Okay, so I start like this and I just draw a line. This is the bottom edge of that sole plate. And just for reference, I'm going to draw it 2 foot long. Okay, zoom out if you need to. Okay, so that is the bottom edge of that board. And just try to imagine a 2x4 piece of lumber. Okay. Now I'm going to create the top edge. Now this piece of lumber is laying flat on the ground. So it's going to have two dimensions. It's going to have an 1.5 inch dimension from the ground up, and then it's going to have a 3.5 inch dimension going horizontally, okay, using these planes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the offset tool, and I'm going to type in 1-1/2 inch. And I'm going to do an offset. So this will represent the top edge of that board. Okay, now that board, that line isn't quite lined up to where I need it to be. Okay, because all of our vertical lines are, going to be straight up and down. They aren't going to be angled at all. So this would be the front edge of that board. Okay, I'm going to draw it up and I'm going to make it even with that line right there. Okay, so you see that right there? That's the edge. So I really need to click on this, click on the move tool, and just move this line in its entirety and set it right there on top of that board. Okay. Now what I need to do is draw the 3.5 inch side of the board. That's going to be the flat top of the board right here. So I'm going to click on offset and type 3.5 inches. Click on this line, the top edge, set it over here. Okay, now that line is not in the right place either, but we're going to make it go into the right place. I'm going to go back into the line tool, and I'm going to draw the 3.5 inch width along this front edge. Okay, and it's at 30 degrees. Okay, it's at 30 degrees from the other lines that are involved. Actually 120 from this one, and then 30 from the other one that's adjacent to it. Okay, so I can draw it, if I want to, I can do this. Just draw it right up to that line, and then use a trim tool and trim the edge of that line off. Or I could have went in, just like I did before, and moved that line. That way, this end would already be set up the way I need it to be. Okay, but I didn't do that. I'll probably do it on the next one. All right, now to complete this end of the board, this is the back edge. I'm going to draw this line straight up. This is the back edge of the board. And then I'm going to draw at 30 degrees over here to the left and line it up with that line right there. And just remember, you can kind of hover over that to turn on that reference point. And then that way you've got two lines where you can snap in, two intersecting lines. Snap in just like that. And I can actually go ahead and continue by drawing the back edge that goes down. And I want to make it even with that one, so I can turn on that reference point. Okay, and notice that they're straight up and down. Okay, all your verticals are always straight up and down in this type of drawing. And then go ahead and just fill in the gap here, and then drag this to complete that gap right there. And we always mark the ends of our boards that we can see with an X. Okay, and that also helps you see this isometric drawing a little bit better. Okay, so there's your board. That's a 2x4. Okay, now that's just the sole plate of what we're working on. So we need to, we're going to start building the corner of this wall. So we need to sort of flesh everything out and get the studs and everything else in there where they belong. So this particular wall is going to overlap, or actually it's not going to overlap. It's going to run into its adjoining wall. Okay, it's perpendicular wall. So I need to put a 2x4 on top of it that's going straight up like a stud would do. Okay, so I'm going to go to this corner. I'm going to draw straight up, and let's say I take this one 2 feet high. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to do the 3.5 inch width of the board. So 3.5 inch, boom, and then come straight down and see, where is that going to join? I don't think it's joining in the right place. Okay, sometimes they don't when you draw it like that. Okay, let's do this part first. Let's go ahead and offset this line an inch and a half. We'll go ahead and get rid of that one. The way the isometric works, if you draw certain parts at certain times, then the measurements don't come out right. So you really need to draw everything that's closest to you first. Okay, that's a tip that I was given at one time, but I sometimes forget it. But draw everything that's closest to you first. Let's do an offset of 1.5 inches. Okay, bring that right here. Now we're going to move this whole line. Click on the Move tool, and that line, the end of it's going to come to right here. Okay, and now we can start looking at stuff and saying, hey, wait a minute, this line doesn't belong there, because you would not be able to see it if you were looking at a 2x4. And I'm talking about this line right here, but we'll take care of that when we come back. Okay, now this line I'm going to offset 3.5 inches. So 3.5 inches in this direction. Okay, and I'm going to move it too. I'm going to click on it, click on the Move tool. I'm going to move the very end of it up to here, keeping everything else lined up. Okay, now if that is a board sitting right there, then it's obviously going to have a joint right across here. That's the bottom of that standing 2x4. Okay, now realistically, we should not be able to see these lines. So I'm going to go to the Trim tool, trim this out, trim that out, and trim this out. Okay, now it's probably starting to look more realistic to you. All right, and then we'll finish drawing the top back here. So this is the front edge of the top. This is the rear edge. I want to line it up with that line right there. Okay, and this is also that last edge. And then we're going to put an edge right here on this corner. Okay, and because it is a cut piece of lumber, we're going to put an X in it just like so. Okay, so there you go. There's the stud. Okay, and I'm only drawing part of the stud because I'm only going to draw like a little demonstration piece of this wall. Okay, so I've got those two studs drawn. So I'm going to cut this video right here and go on to make a second video to show you the rest, just to kind of give you a break between videos, between drawing.